Okay.
All right. So, for the audience that does not know you, feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay. So my name is Sami Steigmann. I'm a Holocaust survivor, child of Holocaust survivors, motivational speaker, educator, and I also served in the Israeli Air Force. My mission in life is an acronym of a Hebrew word called emet, okay, which means truth. And this is to educate the next generation, motivate them to be the best that they can be, to empower them to become upstanders. Because all the tragedies in the world have happened because the world stood by and did nothing, and also tolerance. And tolerance for me does not mean to accept other people's opinion, I mean, other people's misbehaviors, but to accept other people's opinion and other people's culture.
So, what exactly, right? So how did this all happen, right? For the audience that doesn't know, like the story itself, like how did it happen from your perspective? And how old are you exactly?
I am 84. Okay. Uh, what exactly do you want me to tell?
Well, just the
Can you
beginning.
be? Hmm?
Well, just the beginning of your story.
Well, I am, like I said, I'm a Holocaust survivor, which means that I was in one of the three type of camps. Okay, and this is the concentration camp, the labor camp, the death camp. And in 1991, another group of people were also recognized finally 46 years after the World War II ended, and they are called the hidden children. These were people saved by strangers at the risk of their own families. They were hidden by them. They lived in the sewer, in the forest, and did whatever they could to escape the dire consequences. For 63 years, I felt I don't belong to the Holocaust survivors. The reason is when my parents and I were deported by the Romanians, not by the Germans, in 1941, I was only a year and a half. Fortunately for me, I have no memories of that period of time, and the Holocaust survivors did not want to talk about it with the children because they wanted the children to have a normal childhood. So, because I did not uh, have any memories of that period of time, I felt I don't belong to them. I also did not feel that I belong to the children of the Holocaust survivors. Whether your audience knows it or not, 1.5 million children were murdered. What happened is most of the children, okay, of Holocaust survivors were born in DP camps, displaced people. These were the camps liberated by the Allies, Americans, Russians, Brits, and Australians. Life in those camps was not easy. They had to be there for 3 to 5 years. But the reason is because no country wanted them. They had no place to go. So I felt I don't belong to them. I was in a labor camp, and being so young, unable to work, I, if you will ask any survivor, how come you're alive today? Everybody will use only one word in luck. My luck was that I was never separated from my parents. I was subjected to medical experiments, the side effects I will feel them for the rest of my life. And at the same time, my life was saved by a German woman. Uh, so this is briefly. So you have to ask me the questions. By the way, uh, who is the audience?
Um, well, the audience is just people interested in history. I would say, but also people that are interested in philosophy. So, like, what you learn from it all. So,
Okay.
so,
Uh,
so my
okay.
question,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, um, to get started, right? From going through the Holocaust, like, what did you and like surviving it? How you survived through luck and you were saved by a German woman? You're saying, but so how did that part happen?
Uh, well, after they finished with the medical experiments, came a stage that I was dying of starvation. And there are physical signs: big head, swollen stomach, swollen feet. And not far away from the camp, there was a farm owned by Germans. And the German woman brought food to the guards in the SS. So obviously, she had access to the camp. She could go wherever she wanted. Uh, when she saw the physical signs that I'm dying of starvation, at the risk of her entire family, she decided to give me milk. I do not know the name of the woman that saved my life. I was unable to honor her. However, in 2014, I was in Israel giving testimony at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. And next to the museum, there is a garden, okay, honoring 27,000 non Jewish people that saved Jews. And I was extremely happy to see a marker honoring the unknown righteous among the nation. So indirectly, the woman that saved my life, okay, has been honored, but not by me.
So, all right. So now going through everything that you've gone through, my question would be: do you forgive the anybody that did what they did to you?
Well, people have asked me that, and I'm saying I forgave, but not the criminals. I forgave the world that stood by and did nothing. And this is exactly what's happening today. And I want the young people, okay, to see the signs of today, okay, to stand up to lies, misrepresentations, okay, and to make sure that learning from history, they will be able to prevent future tragedies.
So you don't forgive the criminals. You forgive the world at large, though.
Right. Because all the tragedies, like I said before, happened because the world stood by and did nothing. And you have many uh, places where genocide is still happening, but Holocaust is a unique moment in history, will never happen again, in my opinion. It's
What do you?
okay. The reason is because the Holocaust was an industrialized murder. It was not just simple murder. At the same time, it was the most recorded crime in human history. Uh, they destroyed a lot of the records. Without the few records that we have today, we probably would not know even 10% of what we know today.
So, do you believe in God? Like,
Yes.
as, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Now, God had nothing to do with the Holocaust. Okay. The Holocaust happened and was done by people.
so you're of
Oh,
the argument that it was free will.
yes, by the perpetrators.
Okay. So now, what do you think the most important thing when it came to after going through everything that you went through? Like, what did you learn about the people that perpetrated the crimes? Like, what did you learn about the Nazi Party firsthand as being a victim of them?
Okay. Let me ask you, you're a young person. Okay. What do you know? So let's
Well,
have it.
I
Well, let's have a conversation.
So what do you
So,
mean? What do I know?
well, you asked me the question, what do I know about the Nazi Party? What do you know?
Well, I know that they were an organization that was motivated by nationalism, national pride, and the belief that there are certain races that are superior to others in a sort of hierarchy where blue-eyed, blonde hair Aryans are on top and the Jewish population is on the bottom.
Well, it was not only the Jewish people. Okay, so for you to understand, okay, there are many hate groups today. They start very small. We do not react on time. They grow in power, and by the time we start reacting, sometimes it's too late. So let me ask you a question. When Hitler started the Nazi Party, how many members did he have?
I don't know.
Six. Nobody paid attention. Okay, through propaganda, the media, words, bullying. Okay, he convinced. Okay, that the Jews in other groups, okay, are not supposed to live. Interestingly enough, when during the elections in 1932, 30% of the German population, okay, voted for him when he started with nothing. So, for you to understand how the Holocaust happened, we must go through several stages because it started from nothing and it came to a point of no return. And uh, I want, especially young people like you, your generation, to learn from history and not to make any comparisons what's happening today with the Holocaust. Okay, but I want you in the next generation to learn how it happened. Uh, let's start with the end of World War One. At the Treaty of Versailles, there were three punishments that were so severe against the Germans that the German people lost their national pride. Number one, they had to return all the occupied land. Number two, they had to relinquish having an army. As a matter of fact, I have seen pictures that in a military parade, instead of guns, they had shovels. And number three, they had to pay reparations to all of the countries that they fought against. And that caused inflation. And believe me, that you believe or you think that you know what inflation is, but you have no idea. To give an example, in 1917, one American dollar was worth four German money, German marks. At the height of the inflation in 1923, one American dollar was worth 1 trillion. Okay, you could not buy even a newspaper. Nobody wanted. Okay, so that took away the national pride. Okay, and those were the conditions that allowed somebody like Hitler, through propaganda and everything else, to come to power. The other thing is, uh, they portrayed the Jews as threats. Why as threats? Because just like threats, Jews are very small in number, but live all over the world. But they spread disease. And by portraying the Jews as threats, they convince the world that the Jews are not only a danger to Germany, but to the world. And that's how other countries, okay, participate in the annihilation of the Jewish people. Okay. So let's go. The next stage is obviously they put them in ghettos. They portray them as dirty, as unkept, they are unworthy to be associated with them. But the Germans were not yet, okay, how shall I say, violent. They came out in 1935 with the Nuremberg laws. And the Germans, even today, I've been in Germany 3 times, Even today, the Germans are law abiding citizens. To illustrate what I mean by that, in the United States, when it says 65 miles an hour, that's the benchmark. In Germany, it is the speed limit. So, okay, so in the Nuremberg laws in 1935, they told the German population not to associate themselves with their Jewish neighbors or with their Jewish friends. And because it was the law, the Germans, okay, felt patriotic, okay, to obey the law. Okay. But like I said before, they were not violent. Okay. But because people did not react in time and appropriately, okay, it kept escalating. So in 1938, okay, uh, what happened is came uh, when they annexed Austria in 1938. Okay, what happened at that particular time? There were 2 days of riots, November 9 and November 10. This is known today as Crystal Nacht. And in Crystal Nacht, there were the 2 days of riots were sponsored by the state. Okay, and this was the first time that the German people became violent. The next stage is coming right now, September 1st, 1939, when Germany attacked Poland. But unlike Europe, which was occupied, okay, Poland was annexed and it became part of the Greater Germany. So the Nazis parties, Hitler's initial goal was not to murder the Jews. It was to have a Germany free of Jewish people. But once they annexed Poland, that became part of the Greater Germany. And in Poland, they found 3.3 million Jews. What the hell do you do with them? And that came the idea of exterminating them. Uh, Interestingly enough, later on, okay, came another date, and that is June 22nd, 1941. In the Operation Barbarossa, Germany attacked former Soviet Union, and they in the former Soviet when they occupied former in 1941. Okay, that okay in former Soviet Union. That was the date, June 22nd, 1941. And they started in which today is Ukraine. At that time, it was former Soviet Union. They murdered 1.5 million Jews. In total, they murdered 6 million Jews. But then comes, okay, the next stage, and that is January 20, 1942. And that is known, okay, as the beginning of the Holocaust. And it is also known as uh, give me a second. Yes, that was the annihilation of the Jewish people. Okay, in a city called Wannsee, which today is part of Berlin, 15 high-ranking Nazi criminals got together to decide the final solution to the Jewish question. And this is when they started, okay, systematically to murder the Jews, and they also opened up the concentration in the death camps. Until then, they did not have death camps. They murdered them, they gassed them, but they did not have yet the death camps. So as you can see how little by little, if people do not react in time, it escalates to a point of no return. And that's what people have to learn from history and to stand up, okay, before it's too late.
So, with that being said, during the Nuremberg trials, the famous argument or defense of the Nazi Party, those that ended up being tried, um, their defense was that they were just following orders. What do you think of that defense, otherwise known as the superior orders defense?
Well, a lot of the people, because this was industrialist murder, it was run like a factory. So you had people that took, okay, for instance, somebody's birthday. They wrote it down. Somebody else, when they were born, when they died, all kinds of information. So for them, it did not feel that they are participating in it, but they were part of the machine that was created to murder and to annihilate people. So people have to understand that was industrialized murder. There is no such thing today anywhere in the world, and it will not happen again.
So, what were the officers and the guards and the SS officers? What were and members of the Nazi Party that you've met? What were they like?
What do you mean? What they were like?
Like, what did you gather? Like, how do they treat you? How were they towards you? Um, other than like, how did they as a person feel towards you? Like, did they just hate you, or were they doing just what they were told, like mindlessly?
It was their ideology. Okay, they believed in it. They believed that the Jews have no right to live. Okay, they are a danger to Germany and to the world. So they believed in the ideology. Look, we all went through COVID. Okay, but there is another virus that people don't think of, a virus that can never be eradicated. It will always be there. That is the virus of bullying, bigotry, Jew hatred, hate, racism, and ideology. Okay, it was always there, it will always be there. It just depends what a new technology, what new forms, okay, is taking place. Like for instance, today, you have the anti-Jew sentiment. Is you have, for instance, Israel, and you have again what a lot of people consider a dirty word, Zionism. For me, to be a Zionist is, in very simple terms, is to believe that the Jews have the right to have their own country and determine their own future, good, bad, or indifferent.
If you met one of the people that was responsible for what they did to you, high ranking or not, if you met one of the people that was responsible for it, what would you say to them?
Nothing. There is nothing you can say. I'm not going to ask for their apology because it's not the sincere one. They did it. What do you say to somebody? Okay. Somebody wounded you, okay, mortally. What are you going to say? You're going to forgive him?
Right. I get what you're saying. So, what do you think, moving on now, what do you think the cure to hatred and bigotry really is? Like, what do you think, for me as an individual, what do you think the cure to it is? What can I do?
Say it again.
What is the cure to bigotry? What is the solution to it? What is the answer to hatred, bigotry, et cetera, et cetera?
Only one way, education. And that is my mission in life, is to educate the next generation. Okay. The only way you can do it is only through education. If somebody believes in a particular ideology or is a hateful person, whatever it is, you can talk until your face is blue. You're not going to change that person. But by educating that person, okay, If that person is willing to listen, okay, then you will have a better and a more peaceful and a more uh, a world that is, more compassionate and more loving.
So, what do you think what do you think the cure or the solution? What is the solution to being a bystander, right? Because the problem that we've seen time and again in history is the bystanders, especially in the Holocaust. So,
Even today. Why? Even today.
well, what is well, right? So, what is the solution to being a bystander? What can I do, other than maybe what is it? What is the cure to being a bystander? What is the solution to being a bystander?
To become active, to be involved, to be knowledgeable. Now, to give an example, if you want to change somebody's perspective, okay, and let's say that you believe in climate change, okay, you cannot change anybody's perspective unless you are knowledgeable on that subject. You want to talk about the war in Gaza, you have to educate yourself on that subject. You want to talk about the conflict between the Israelis and Palestinians, you have to be knowledgeable. So, whatever subject you are interested in, you must do the research. You must be knowledgeable on it. I would never talk to a Holocaust denier because I'm not interested on the subject. I don't know enough about it. And they can quote me all kinds of articles and all kinds of things, and I would not know what they are talking about. So I would not talk to somebody, okay, about a subject that I'm not knowledgeable.
So, if you, without changing the events that occurred, what would you tell your younger self?
Nothing. It happened. Okay. Nothing I can do about it. Okay. I'm moving forward. I don't dwell on it. I just do my part to educate the next generation and I move forward. I don't dwell on it. There is
While you
nothing.
were
There is nothing I can do to change it. But by
right.
educating the next generation, I am facilitating the young people to become knowledgeable and to become upstanders.
So, while you were going through it all, right, while you were going through the Holocaust, what was your thought process? Like, what were you going through?
Do you remember anything when you were a year and a half?
No.
So I have no memories of that period of time. For me, it's a blessing in disguise. I don't have to relive those horror stories. The Holocaust survivors did not talk. They wanted the children to have a normal childhood about it. So that's why for 63 years I felt I don't belong to the Holocaust survivors. I don't belong to the children of the Holocaust survivors. But there were two events that changed my life forever. The Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. closed its door to the general public for 2 days for 16 years in a row. Okay. I had never went. Okay. They opened up the doors only to the Holocaust survivors, their children, and their liberators. On November 1st and 2nd of 2003, I decided to go. There were over 8,000 people from all over the world. And at the table where I was sitting, I met a man born in the same city, been in the same camp, the same years, 1941, 1944. He was deported when he was 8 months old. I was deported when I was a year and a half. And that is the difference between, okay, history and living history. By meeting him for the first time, I felt I belonged to both generations. And that prompted me to stop ignoring being a Holocaust survivor. And in 2007, I decided to join the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust here in New York, where I live. Okay. And in 2008, I got my first assignment to speak to sixth graders. I did not have a feeling that I have a compelling story. But by talking to them, another miracle happened. They sent me thank you letters, each one better than the other. But one sixth grader changed my life forever. And she wrote, P.S. Your story was overwhelming, and I promise I'll pass your story to my children. When I saw the impact that I had on my first presentation, I realized that I have something that I can share, which is very important. And I have decided to dedicate the rest of my life to reach as many people as I can, nationally and internationally.
So, what do you want your message to be to the world?
Number one, I want you to be proud of your heritage. I want you to be the best that you can be. Want to empower you to become an upstander. All the changes in the world have happened because of young people. The young people, the next generation, this is my hope, my future. And at the same time, what I want to do and what I'm hoping is by educating yourself, by standing up, becoming upstanders, that you will be able to prevent future tragedies. And if somebody misrepresents something, somebody uses the wrong words or whatever it is, don't be silent. Okay? Stand up, speak up, and don't be afraid. And okay, we all come from different places, different cultures. Uh, Here in the United States, we are Americans, but all of us should be very proud of our heritage. So I am a proud American, but I am very proud Jew.
So, I'm going to ask two more questions,
Sure.
unless if something comes up. So, where do you think love comes in as a solution, if at all, to solving hatred?
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. Every thing starts with three letters. Y O U. You want to be respected? Respect yourself. You want to be loved? Learn to love yourself. So a lot of people are trying to find happiness, love through somebody else. Everything starts with you. So learn to love yourself. You cannot love somebody else if you don't love yourself. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does, and I agree. Um,
Okay.
my last question is
Nobody can teach you how to love. Nobody can teach you that.
right. It has to come from within.
Exactly.
Right. I always say change starts with you. If you want to see a change in the world, you must be the best representative of that change. So whether
Correct.
that be you want people to be more generous, you want people to be kinder. Okay, well, why don't you be a little bit more generous? Why don't you give a little bit more when people are in need?
Okay. Do you give? But give it to yourself.
Right.
Give it first of all. Okay. Take care of you. You cannot take care of anybody else if you cannot take care of yourself.
Right. So now my last question is what advice do you have for young people?
Like I said before, uh, educate yourself on the subject that is important to you. Nobody is interested in everything. Okay, use your skills, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's writing. Okay, whatever skills you have, Okay, use it to bring people of different other groups, okay, together. Okay. Uh, Also, I want everybody to be proud of their heritage. Do not be ashamed of your heritage. Do not try to hide it. Okay. It's very important. It's who you are. Okay. And okay, like I said, be an upstander. And also, very importantly, if you want people to love you, or you want to be able to love other people, learn to love yourself. Everything starts with YOU.
I think that's a great place to end off. I appreciate you coming and doing this. This was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll talk a little bit after the show.
Yes.
Do you have any final words, comments?
Well, first of all, to your audience and to you, I want to thank you for being, in my opinion, you are an upstander. You are doing something, okay, wanting to learn about other people's culture, about the different events that happen, and everything else. And you are a very good example of an upstander. Okay. And I believe that when you will hear on TV or celebrities or people in power that misuse certain words, that you will stand up. By the way, let me give you an example. Okay. Hey, I don't use names, but I hope that you will know who I'm talking about. A celebrity said that the Holocaust is not about race. You know that?
I believe I've heard it, yes.
Oh,
But go
okay.
on.
Okay. But like I said, okay, the Nazis, okay, okay, once they were going to murder all of the European Jews, they came out uh, with 11 million people in Europe, all the European countries. Once they were going to murder all of the European Jews, they wanted to open up a museum in Prague, and they were going to call it the Museum of the Extinct Race. So this is what we have to understand when people are using the wrong words. I do not believe in punishment, but people like that particular celebrity person that said that the Holocaust is not about race has done a great damage, because that person has millions of people following uh, followers all over the world, and the young people do not do the research, so they will use it, the slogan. Okay, they will use it, they will repeat it over and over and over. And like Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda under Hitler, said, a lie told long enough becomes truth. And that's why, especially for the young people, you have to change it, okay, and repeat it over and over. Now, for instance, in my particular case, I do not like the word anti Semitism, okay, because anti Semitism and hate can be many times it can be interchanged, although anti Semitism refers to Jews. What I prefer, and I even training myself to do it, is to use the word Jew hatred, in hate, and that is very precise, and you can differentiate, okay, between these two forms of hate. So we have to be very precise with the words that we are using.
Well, this gave me one more question, and
Sure.
then I'll
You,
continue.
you can ask as many questions as you want. Okay.
So
Learning starts with a question.
so my last question, unless if I have another one, which would
Okay.
be um about forgiveness. Where does forgiveness place itself in all of this?
Okay. So I'll give you a personal example. Okay. There are two things in this country that I'm extremely unhappy. Number one, people have forgotten how to disagree in a civil way. Number two, if you pay attention to the news, okay, nobody is accountable, nobody is responsible for anything. It's always somebody else's fault, okay, or circumstances. In my particular case, I was homeless. I live under the poverty line. And I became homeless because of friends, okay, that I trusted them. So, how did I become a free man? Okay, I decided to take responsibility. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Something that you do causes, okay, the conversation to go further. And as I tried to figure out what did I do to lead to the point that I became homeless, is I realized that I made two mistakes. These were people that I trusted. I gave them cash. I did not put anything in writing. Prove it. So I said to myself, you know something? They are not guilty. They took advantage of my stupidity. So by taking responsibility, I don't have the need to blame them. I'm becoming a free man. I can move forward without anger, without anything. But I had to do two things. Number one, I had to forgive myself for making those mistakes. And number two, I had to be kind to myself. We are kind to many, many other people. But many times, if we make a mistake, we blame ourselves and we are not kind to ourselves. Learn to be kind to yourself. And by doing those two things, all of a sudden, I became a free man. Make
What
sense?
did you learn? Yes, that does make sense. Now this brings up another question. When you were homeless, what did that teach you about what did being homeless really teach you though? Like through it all?
Well, I have learned about the system that people give. People think that when they give certain things, okay, to different organizations, uh, they feel altruistic. It's a business, okay? It's a complete complex. Unless you are in that situation, you really don't know what you're talking about. Trust me, I've been there. I know it. But at the same time, uh, being homeless, I take, and that is my life saving. I always take a negative and to turn it into something positive. So I said, okay, I've been homeless. I live under the poverty line. I live in New York, the most expensive city in the country. My monthly income is $1,563. Okay. So I don't look at the negative. I do, okay, I turn it into something positive. And one of the things that I do is to educate the next generation. Now, let me ask you a question. How would you say, what's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist?
Their view on
There is,
the world.
there is a saying. There is
So
a,
if you see the glass half full, if you see the glass half empty.
that's not what I say. I say a pessimist sees in every opportunity a problem. An optimist sees in every problem an opportunity. So when I was in the shelter, okay, I was an extremely heavy smoker, at least 2.5 packs a day. I would have never given it up. But at that particular time in life, I was a broken man and I did not want to live. And I said, for me to recover is when I will quit smoking cold turkey. I did not say when I will try. I said when I will. That's a commitment. When I will quit smoking cold turkey, suddenly I will recover. December 13th, if you're superstitious, Friday the 13th, 1996, I had my last cigarette, and that was the beginning of my road to recovery. So I took something negative. Okay, I did not want to live, and I turned it into something positive. So my life is based on that. Hold on a second. I want to. I put it on my Facebook, but I want to uh, tell you. Hold on. Okay, give me just 1 second. Yes. Okay, there is a saying. Okay, I don't know who said it. The happiest people don't have the best of everything. They just make the best of everything. And that is the true story of my life. This is the real me. And that's why I was and remained an optimist.
Where do you think that came from? Your ability to just turn whatever, was that always naturally within you, or
It's within me. I did not work at it. It's something that, for me at least, it came naturally.
okay? All right.
So I
Yeah.
cannot tell other people how to do it. That is something from within, but they have to learn by themselves, not to dwell on the negative, because nothing is going to change. It happened. It's over. Okay, it's gone. Nothing you can do about it, and turn it into something positive.
What do you think the most important lesson you've learned in your entire life is? Like, if you had to boil your entire life down, the number one lesson.
Number one, with everything that I went through, I remained true to myself. I did not compromise, and I remained. I had many opportunities to change, to go the wrong way. I had, okay, but with everything that I went through in life, I remained true to who Sammy is.
All right. I think that's a good place to really end off. All
Okay.
right.
Yes.
So,
So
any
now we
final
can.
words?
The final words is, I want to thank you, your audience, for listening. I want to thank you for inviting me. And I want to congratulate you for being an upstanders and an example to other young people. And then, okay, after the program is over, I want to talk to you and find out how you started, okay, this journey.
All right. I will do so. All right. I'm going to stop recording in 3, 2, 1.